Hello class and welcome to this Gauntlet NES walkthrough right here on Video Games 101 by way of Let's Play with Brigands. I'm your instructor, Professor Brigands, and true to its name, Gauntlet is a challenge and is in the conversation of the most difficult titles which the NES has to offer. It's no wonder with this game being based on an arcade title, but quarters won't buy us anything this time, certainly not in the year 20XX as it is right now, but definitely not in this game. You get one life, fail, and, well, I guess you can continue on with a password if you know what you're doing, as we'll show, but still, this is an incredibly challenging game. How difficult? In terms of difficulty, I'm going to give Gauntlet for the NES a 9 out of 10, which on the frustration scale, this equates to writhing on the floor, cursing in tongues. A lot of levels in that final world or block of 20 in this game are very writhe and curse-worthy, but don't worry, we've got the keys to saving the realm of, I think it's called Rendar, but whatever it's called, we're going to show you how to save it, myself and the TAs. Blaze is going to cover the items of Gauntlet on which your survival depends. Gary's got tips for taking down the final and only boss in this game. Fluff has a number of interesting facts to share about Gauntlet, and we've even got an announcer guy giving us his character comparison for the 4 characters you can choose from here in Gauntlet to make your decision a lot easier. But mostly, I've got your most efficient route through this game, both in terms of the best level route to take overall, but also the best tracks through the specific levels themselves. A lot to get to though, so let's run the intro and get into this Gauntlet NES walkthrough right here on Video Games 101. Alright, before we start a new game, let's take a quick look at the controls for Gauntlet. Move around with that D-pad. Also note that walking into enemies with the D-pad will automatically engage your melee attack, and depending on what your stat is in that category, you'll have an easier or harder time taking down enemies. This works on most enemies in the game, save for the ghosts. Don't try to do this with the ghosts, or death, come to think of it, but we'll talk about that. Pause the game and bring up the menu with Start. Hit B to use one of your bombs, do this very sparingly, and then A is your ranged attack. Hold this down to aim the direction you want without moving, and yeah, this kind of just stops you in general when you're holding down that A button, and that can be quite useful as we'll talk about once we get into it. And also one last thing before we get into the game, let's take a quick look at the Briggs notes for this Gauntlet NES walkthrough, the keys to beating this game. First, follow this guide. We'll be showing you the most efficient route through the 100 levels of this game, as I mentioned in opening. It's not necessary or even recommended to visit every single level. Actually, it's impossible to beat the game if you visit certain levels, which I'll talk about once we get closer to them. And some floors are more difficult but rewarding to access, so yes, that's precisely what we'll be covering to keep you alive, grabbing all the upgrades along the way to give you the best chance for survival. Secondly, and probably obviously, keys are necessary for unlocking some chests that we need to beat the game, some doors as well that we need to beat the game, so use them responsibly, and I'll cover how to do that level by level. And lastly, know your characters. There are 4 characters to choose from, each with their strengths and weaknesses, so now, with an overview on them, it's time to play Getting to Know Your Gauntlet Characters! As the professor just mentioned, each character has their own unique strengths and weaknesses. In fact, the game even shows you as much by doing a lot of the heavy lifting and assigning numbers 1 through 5 to 4 of the 5 basic traits. Speaking of which, aside from the starting health total, these traits are Armor Strength, which refers to how much damage a character takes with each hit, Shot Strength, which refers to how much damage a character deals with each ranged attack, Magic Strength, which refers to how much damage a character deals using a potion bomb, and Player Speed, which is self-explanatory. Note that speed does not affect your character's attack speed, and every character's ranged attack takes roughly 2 seconds to cross the entire screen. There's also a 5th trait known as Fighting Ability, which unaccountably isn't displayed here, which I'll cover for each character. Fighting Ability refers to each character's prowess in hand-to-hand combat, as the manual describes it, or better said, how quickly they can defeat certain enemies by walking into them. One last note, it's worth keeping in mind when covering all these traits that there are items in the game which Blaze will cover and the Professor will show, which will permanently upgrade an individual trait by 1. So these numbers are not representative of the stats you'll be saddled with for the entire game. Now let's get into the characters. Thor the Warrior. The Warrior is unsurprisingly the best fighter out of the bunch, boasting the best damage for both ranged and hand-to-hand combat. This comes with one massive caveat, which is the Warrior is the sole character in Gauntlet whose shot attacks can't go through diagonal cracks between walls, which is a serious liability throughout this game. He does boast the second best armor in the game, which negates roughly 20% of the damage he takes. He also starts off with the most HP, which at first glance seems like a good thing. What the game doesn't tell you is that with each treasure threshold you hit to upgrade your max HP, the Warrior receives the smallest boost of 80 extra HP per level up, leaving him with the second worst final HP in the game. The Warrior's fighting abilities and armor are understandably offset by the fact that his magic attack, meaning his use of potion bombs, is the worst in the game, with many enemies describing the effect akin to a nice warm bath. Not exactly what we're going for, Thor. More importantly, Thor is the slowest character in the game, making treasure levels, clue levels, and heck, I'll just say it, most of this game extremely frustrating if you're playing as him or with him as the second player. Put all this together, and Thor is objectively the worst character in Gauntlet. C tier. Syra, the Valkyrie. For beginners, a much better option is the Valkyrie, as she's the most balanced character overall. Her party best armor stat negates 30% of the damage she takes, and she's tied for the second best speed in the game. Her hand-to-hand combat is the second best in the game as well, making her a decent option for players looking to tank their way through large groups of enemies. The 2s in shot and magic strength can be a liability, especially later on in the game, but at least she and all subsequent characters can shoot through cracks, allowing you to disarm enemy generators and clear out enemies before you access upcoming areas. With an effective upgrade strategy for this character, Syra can just about hold her own here in Gauntlet, but there are still better options. B tier. Merlin the Wizard. Speaking of better options, we have Merlin the Wizard. As you'd expect, a rogue doesn't offer much protection from being clubbed by a team of grunts or getting shot up by a group of demons, and a frail old man body doesn't deal much damage to them in hand-to-hand combat either. The Wizard more than makes up for these weaknesses with the second most powerful ranged attack in the game, and is tied for the second best speed, allowing him to attack enemies from afar and reposition as necessary to escape danger. Merlin also boasts the most powerful magic attack out of the party, as his use of the potion bombs are the only ones which are capable of clearing the most powerful generators and enemies stock from the start of the game compared to everyone, which is essential late in the game. While he starts out with the lowest HP, Merlin and the Valkyrie are tied for having the second best HP boost per level at 100. But the hole he starts out in means being very careful and grabbing all the treasure you can. A skilled player is recommended to get the most out of this character. A tier. Questor the Elf. Questor the Elf's speed is essential for avoiding enemies or clearing out treasure rooms, especially later on in the game, which is good because his armor is a liability. He's also got a very serviceable 3 in the magic power category, so his bombs are decently useful from the start of the game. While the Elf is lacking in attack power both ranged and close up, there are plenty of upgrades along the way to turn Questor with his pathetic hand-to-hand fighting ability early on into Bruce Lee in Fists of Fury. Clearly a developer favorite, the Elf also receives the best boost of 120 HP every new level, which means that even though he starts off with the second worst overall in terms of HP at 820, by the time you collect 400 treasure he's tied with the Warrior and Valkyrie in terms of overall health. By the next level he's got the most health overall, and he tops off with a party-leading 1540 HP, a full 80 HP over the Warrior. Pretty embarrassing, Thor. Every team should have at least one elf in the party, as despite his early weaknesses in combat, much like his health, the elf quickly becomes the best overall character here in Gauntlet. S tier. This has been Getting to Know Your Gauntlet Characters.
The Valkyrie is a good option for beginners getting familiar with the game for the first time, but more experienced players will get the most out of the offensive capabilities of the Wizard or the game-winning speed of the Elf. Good luck!
Thank you, Announcer Guy. We will be playing as the Elf. As we start a new game here and head to level 1, note there's a hidden warp to level 5 hidden behind a block if you shoot it in the top right, as I'll show, but being that it's early days in the game is at its easiest, we want to spend as much time in the first block of 20 levels, or the first world as the game refers to it, as possible for the most part, collecting as much treasure as possible to upgrade our maximum health as much as we can. There's that hidden exit right there. You'll see that our health is constantly dropping in general, so that we're constantly on the lookout for some kind of sustenance to replenish it, not unlike Master Higgins from Adventure Island, whom I tried to diagnose during our class on that game. As such, you can't dally and you need to be deliberate in your decisions through each floor/level. You've got these enemy generators, which you can destroy without taking damage by walking into them, using that melee attack I talked about in the controls, but because they're constantly generating enemies, hence the name, it's usually safer to pick them off from a distance. The nice thing is, if you move so that the generator is just at the edge of the screen, it won't generate enemies, but you can still get ranged attacks off on it. That's assuming you've got a straight unobstructed path, of course, but also worth mentioning is that generators come in 3 different strengths. A level 3 generator takes 5 damage, meaning the warrior can take one out in a single hit, but being that we're a lowly elf, our ranged attack only does 2 damage at the start, so it takes 3 hits, and the generator will shrink and or change form with each hit. Note that the current level of the generator's strength dictates the strength of the enemies it puts out as well, so a level 3 generator puts out level 3 enemies, which in turn take multiple hits to take down with our current damage we're giving out, just like the generator. Plus they do more damage to us the higher their level, so Announcer Guy kind of touched on that in the character comparison with the damage each character can expect to take at the start, using the various levels of ghosts as an example, but yeah, still worth a reminder there. Here on level 2, there are 2 routes from the start to spend your single key on, left or right. If we bounce back and forth, we can actually collect all the treasure on this level, so go left at the top from that start and grab the 8 treasures in the key, then head back to the right and go more or less linearly around counterclockwise. You can see from the start the value in getting to the enemy generators sooner than later, or even keeping them off the screen altogether. It's much better than having to cut through a stream of enemies slowly, especially in later levels when enemies are coming in from more directions. Blaze will come in momentarily to cover the items, but be careful because you can destroy the jugs, like the one in the top right, if you're not careful with your projectiles, which can be easy to do when it's right next to an enemy generator like it was in this level, firing one too many. And this is an example of a stage where we can actually lock ourselves out of being able to beat it. And it's only level 2. If you spend your keys unwisely, unlocking doors back to areas you've already been to which don't have any additional keys, then yeah, we can lock ourselves out of being able to beat this game. 2 levels in, that's Gauntlet for you right there, but moving on to level 3. Unless you're going for some kind of sadist's no treasure run, we'll hit 50 points on this level, which will earn us our first HP max upgrade, which, as Announcer Guy said, is the 4 characters leading extra 120 every time for the elf. Already helping us close the gap on the Valkyrie and the warrior. Best way to do this level is, and there's our first level up if you will, best way to do this level is to quickly hit the top line, breaking a wall and collecting the 4 treasures, then cutting south behind the generator, then breaking the bottom wall and grab another 11 treasures. You have to backtrack to the middle then. The right side is swimming with ghosts, so break through either the top or bottom wall and cut straight to the exit, which is gratifyingly easy to do with the elf's inherent speed. And now for a showcase on why the elf is the best character. Level 4 is our first treasure room. 0 enemies and 30 seconds to collect as many treasures as possible before time expires. The exit switches randomly between a set of positions each time, but with the elf you should be able to make a decent clockwise swing around the place to grab a lot of treasure and locate that exit before time expires. Get to the exit before the time elapses, and you get a password and your health gets topped off, so it's definitely worth it. Go left at the start and grab your key, and then beyond that, only stop off when treasure is on your route or there's 2 or more lined up next to one another. Just stay disciplined in following this route to ensure you'll get the max loot. Didn't mean for that to rhyme. I feel like I could do a bard's song to that, but here in level 5, there's a hidden exit to level 9 in the north area behind a block I'll show, but we'll be skipping. Otherwise, from the start, go southwest and up the left wall to use our treasure level key. Treasures may spell out but there's nothing underwhelming about 22 treasures and some health, so follow along as let's get a quick overview of the items through the rest of this stage with Blaze.
It's Blaze's best here in Item Sky. Alright, let's talk about the items you'll find here in Gauntlet. Some are just sitting out in the open, others are kept in chests or hidden in other places the professor will point out. First, we have treasure chests. These increase your score by 1, and as the professor mentioned, you can increase your max HP by collecting enough of these. Once you reach 2,000 treasure chests, you'll no longer get passwords. This is the game's way of punishing you, I guess, for your greed, but admittedly, that's difficult to do unless you're doing a lot of backtracking. There's also the very rare Bag of Jewels, which, despite what the manual says, are worth 5 treasure chests. Note that if you're playing with another player and they die, they'll leave an item with this animation behind, which allows you to grab their loot. I mentioned boosting your max HP with enough treasure chests a second ago. Well, you can refill 100 health by picking up either the jug, which I guess is some kind of booze given the 3 X's, Nintendo didn't care in 1988, or the bowl of gruel. Note that you can shoot the jug and it will disappear. This doesn't happen with the gruel, but be careful with those jugs. Next, we have keys. These are used to unlock doors and chests. It's important that you always have a few of these, though the professor will point out if you'll need some in an upcoming stage here and there. Keys cap off at 10, keep that in mind, so yeah, just open a chest or unlock a door before picking one up when you're already at the max. Next, we have bomb potions. These damage everything on the screen unless it's on the outer limits. This includes enemies and enemy generators. If your magic stat is high enough, it will destroy everything on the screen. Very useful, especially late in the game. These also cap out at 10. Looking very similar to bomb potions, though typically in darker colors and shades. The poison takes away 100 health, when you pick one up and can make you walk a little funky for a few steps. You can shoot one of these should you come upon one, which is good in case one's blocking your way. Next, we have the temporary invisibility. While you've got this, enemies won't attack you for 10 seconds. Note that items like these stack, so sometimes you'll find a pair or a few of these together, and for you and a second player maybe, but if you grab all of these, you'll have that many seconds worth of the effect. Again, each one is worth 10 seconds. Similar to the temporary invisibility, we have the temporary repulsion amulet. Looks more like the box the amulet came in to me, but regardless, it's similar to the temp invisibility, but instead it makes the enemies run away from you for 10 seconds, which can be good for creating a nice lane to the exit or your next destination. Next, we have my item of the game here in Gauntlet, the temporary invulnerability. This makes you invincible for roughly 55 seconds, allowing you to race through as many levels as possible while it's still in effect. Pro tip, don't stop and shoot while you've got this item, just plow through everybody. I will mention that you lose health twice as fast while this item is in effect, meaning you'll lose a little over 100 health in half the time, but that's a drop in the bucket compared to what you'd normally lose from the enemies themselves. The only item I recommend that you avoid altogether, aside from the poison, is my award for the most useless item of the game, the temporary reflective shots. It makes your projectiles bounce off walls until they leave the screen, and given that you can't fire a second shot until it leaves the screen, yeah, don't pick this up. There's also nothing temporary about this item. It sticks around until you reach the exit. And then last but not least, the 10 super shots pickup makes your next 10 shots go through and destroy everything they touch except for walls. This includes multiple enemies in a row, enemy generators. It can even create a hole in an otherwise locked door which you can pass through, allowing you to save some keys, which is very useful for late in the game. But there you are, the basic items of Gauntlet.
Thank you, Blaze. Just wanted to pause that there because there's so much to cover in each specific level. So for level 6, make your way through the not always immediately obvious breakable walls and grab some treasure staying left. Go back to the fork and hang left to get a couple of those invisibility potions, which, as Blaze mentioned, stack if you don't have anyone to share them with. There's a chest which requires a key, which has some health in it, but hopefully you don't need it because there's 2 jugs on this level and more health on the next level. There's a couple keys we can grab as well behind a stun tile, which again we can pause and unpause to negate the effects and especially not take any damage in the meantime, but yeah, careful with those jugs. Don't want to accidentally shoot them. Level 7, we can afford to be sloppy on this level because there's a treasure room immediately after it, and we'll aim to exit once again before 30 seconds to leave topped off on health. Just make sure you get all the keys and the bomb in this one. Still, there's 4 different bowls of gruel around the southeast quadrant of the map and 1 more in the northwest, so you might want to clear out some generators before you go for them if you're not at or near max health. Also a bomb around the center, and a couple keys in the northwest. Note that the exit is in the northeast, and there's a line of barriers below it so that you can't break through. So you need to go clockwise from the starting spot to reach it, but there's also a chest in the east wall which has an invisibility potion, so just recommend skipping that. We've also got Blaze covering the enemies here in Gauntlet, so let's get his take on the first enemy we encountered in the game, the Ghost.
Alright, the ghosts, as the professor mentioned, like all enemies here in Gauntlet, are as strong as the generators they come from. Also, for what it's worth, generally any pre-existing enemies on a level are as strong as the strongest generator, which is typically level 3, but the ghosts are unique in that they die immediately on contact with you, albeit in the process taking an amount of health which is relative to their strength and your armor. For this reason, we don't want to just run through them like the grunts, and we'll just end up burning a bunch of health. Instead, we want to attack them from a distance with our ranged weapons, but there is a nice trick with the ghosts, and that is, if you hold down A to keep firing your weapon, the ghosts unaccountably can't actually hurt you, even if they're right on top of you. The sole exception is when your projectile gets relatively far away on the screen, so keep that in mind, but in a narrow hallway when walls are close by or really near any nearby wall that you're firing into, you're basically invincible against the ghosts, so prioritize any non-ghosts that you see in this situation while keeping that A button held down.
Thank you, Blaze. Yeah, that technique is quite necessary, especially later on in the game, but once again, just make sure to grab the key on the left at the start. And here we can see at the corner of the screen that the exit is in the northwest, so making the counterclockwise loop from the key to end up there. Once again, prioritizing any easy to grab treasures or spots with 2 or more. There's our password for room 9 overall, level 9. So level 9 is another level where you want to start fast before the ghosts overrun the level, but yeah, the ghosts are back, which means we can't run through the majority of the enemies attacking them up close like we've gotten accustomed to doing over those last few levels. This is the first level where that trick which Blaze just mentioned, holding down A, the attack button, can save us a lot of damage as we slowly move around the spiral. This is a good example of another trick of using items like the treasure to funnel the enemies so that we can take them out a bit more safely before we collect it. I like to clean out all the enemy generators as I go, leaving a lot of the health items because I like to double back at the end and unlock that second door we come upon to replace the key and get ourselves a bomb potion. Just note that there's also our first death enemy lurking behind that locked door. Blaze?
This is the first instance of a death enemy here in Gauntlet. It will chase and rub up against you until it steals roughly 80 of your health, at which point it will disappear. Outside of a magic bomb, death cannot be killed, but it can be outsmarted. Your best strategy, especially with the faster characters, is to run or lure and trap it on the other side of a wall as you continue your quest, but be very wary when death is near.
There he is right there. You see how quickly they move relative to really any enemy we've encountered at this point, so once we unlock that door, just use the elf's speed to lure him out into a larger space right here, and just do a little dipsy-do right there. It's the first time I ever said dipsy-do here on Video Games 101, but felt applicable there in the moment as we hit our next level, 200 treasure right there. But yes, once he's off the screen, you'll note that He's no longer stalking us. He's still waiting right there, just at that same spot where we left him, where we scrolled him off. So the second you backtrack at all, just be ready to know that, yeah, he's going to be hot on your heels there, stalking you once again, just trying to get to you any way he can. Walls or no. Level 10, though, pretty straightforward. Very quick level. I like these. There's a bomb potion locked up in the lower right quadrant, which we can access by stepping on a flashing tile to make the walls disappear around it. That'll be a regular mechanic which we deal with for the majority of the game. Also unlocks the exit above it, so... Not to mention some of these enemy generators as well. Grab the health down here at the bottom right. Make sure you don't shoot it. That's the tile right up there, though, that's going to open everything up for us. So we can grab ourselves that bomb. Demon's pretty straightforward, just getting their shots off on us, as you could see. Best to run through them rather than... Or if you only have one or two, just kind of bait their shots, get out of the way, and pretty straightforward in that sense. Level 11, this is an instance where we can slow play the demons here, picking them off one by one on the side of the screen while other demons are trying to shoot us behind a wall. But we've got a treasure floor coming up in a couple levels, so we don't need to be too precious with our health. As such, if you like, you can ram through them. Skip the treasure chest down there because it's just a useless reflective shot. There's two exits to this floor. The more obvious exit in the bottom takes us to level 13, but we can get a lot of nice loot on level 12. So to access that, we can shoot away a piece of the wall at the bottom of the map to access a bunch of treasure and an alternate exit. After we grab the bomb potion from the lower right corner, of course. Obviously, don't waste a key on releasing death there. That is not a... that's not a trick. There's nothing good to be accomplished by unlocking that door. Just using our speed to scroll off that death right there. So on the next level, we have our first extra shot power potion to grab. Our first upgrade in general, I believe. Gotta be careful not to shoot them, as it will make that potion disappear. We'll have Blaze come in and talk about them in just a second, but yeah, aside from that, there's a lot of good loot, mostly in the form of 5 bomb potions. Unless you've been using your bomb potions to this point, we have a chance to max out our count at 10 on those, at least here in single player mode. Don't forget we've got a treasure floor after this, so you can go full tank mode if the mood should strike you. We do have to use a key to access an otherwise hidden flashing tile so that we can access another hidden flashing tile behind a wall in the center where we start, which allows us to access the exit, which is also covered by a wall at the start. But we have our first acid enemies in this level as well. Blaze?
The acid puddles are like a less dangerous version of death. Instead of 80 HP, they sap roughly 60 health before they disappear, admittedly taking health at a slower rate. They also move slower in general and move randomly rather than stalking you, but be careful to not get trapped in a small space with them, as you'll be forced to use a bomb potion unless you don't mind losing 60 HP, as basic attacks will not work on them.
Good call, Blaze, thank you. Just trying to lure the death off screen there and then clean it up here. Nice little treasure trove. Just run right by death there, because if you hit him at the right angle, you can kind of run through him, but that's not a normal thing. Anyway, yeah, the first upgrade potion, we just grabbed it. Let's get an overview on those while we're doing the treasure stage here with Blaze.
I covered the basic items, now let's talk the upgrade items, which will give you a permanent +1 to the 5 stats here in Gauntlet. Note that shooting one of these potions will double as an on-demand bomb, destroying everything on the screen, including your current mood, because trust me, you don't want to waste these. First, we have the extra armor potion. This potion has the symbol of a shield on it and gives you a permanent +1 to your armor stat. Next, the extra magic potion. With the symbol of the bomb potion on it, this fittingly increases the damage your bomb potions will do moving forward. Next, we have the extra shot power potion. This has a dark circle symbol on it, which will make your ranged attacks you trigger by tapping A more powerful. Next, we have the extra speed potion, which is recognized by the arrow on the jar. You'll immediately notice the difference when you pick one of these up because you'll instantly start moving faster. And lastly, we have the extra fight power potion, which boosts your hand-to-hand combat stat by 1 so you can plow through enemies faster, taking less damage in the process.
Thank you, Blaze. Yeah, good reminder to not waste those upgrade potions by shooting them as we lure these grunts around the corner and then pick them off one by one in a row. Conga line of death style there. It's a good way of doing it. But yeah, it's not like when you accidentally shoot a jug. That's 100 health. Shooting an upgrade potion, that's getting rid of a chance to permanently upgrade one of your stats for the rest of the game. So, gotta be very careful around those. But we'll point out all the places where we can grab one in this game. Got these stun tiles here. These will stun you for about 2 seconds before you can move again. Note that the holding down the A button trick still works on these ghosts, even if you're stunned, even if you're not firing a weapon in that case, but I got a little sloppy there. I took my finger off for a split second, so one of them got to us, but good tip whenever you hit one of those stun tiles, if you have enemies on you, don't feel like waiting around and taking a beating, which can end your life very quickly if you get surrounded by enemies and stunned late in the game. So I'm trying not to waste a key here. Is to just pause and unpause the game, as that will instantly negate the effects of the stun. You can also undo the projectile which you have on the screen by pausing and unpausing, which is good if you accidentally picked up those reflective shots and are just waiting a very long time to get that shot off the screen. There's 2 exits on this stage. We want this one here, as this will take us to level 15 so that we can grab another upgrade, this time an armor upgrade to give our elf a little bit more protection here. There's 2 exits here on level 15. We want the upper right exit to head to level 16, which is our first clue floor, which is necessary for fully beating this game. To reach that exit, it's pretty annoying. You need to hit a flashing tile in the bottom right, which will let you access another one in the top left, at which point you need to return to the bottom right and hit another one just north of there, and then go back all the way clockwise to finally end up in the top right. At some point, don't forget to stop off at the north center area and shoot a little wall sticking out once to reveal an extra armor potion upgrade that I just mentioned. Be careful not to shoot it, hence the single shot, but there's a single treasure in the treasure chest to the right of that area as well, so you can skip that. But if you've got the max magic potions at this point in the game, the bomb potions, you can use one to destroy one of the annoyingly placed acid puddles in the corners near the switches you need to hit, but it's your prerogative, like clearing out the screen right there. It's very satisfying. But yeah, a lot of the enemies are beginning to move a little bit faster, as you probably noticed. Not only do they move faster, but they swing their weapons faster, so yeah, we'll start hemorrhaging life very quickly here in this game if we are not careful, so only gets more difficult from here on out, class, and we're only on level 15 so far, so you can see right there, he had a little line on us with the diagonal shot there, that grunt, just stacking damage. Alright, so level 16, this is our first clue room. It's necessary to collect the clue and make it to the exit before time expires in order to properly beat the game. We need to do this on all 8 clue levels, but anyway, open the bottom 2 chests and the top left chest for flashing tiles, and our first extra magic potion to increase the power of our bomb potions. Then race around to the central area, which we unlocked with the previous flashing tiles to get some treasure and food, and shoot that little piece of wall in the center there to reveal one last tile, which will unlock the clue and the exit. You have more than enough time to complete this, especially with the elf, so grab any treasure you missed, grab the clue, and hit the exit before time expires. So with 8 spaces and beginning with a C, I guess drink more Ovaltine is out of the question, or drink your Ovaltine. Any guesses, class? For what it's worth, the password, for lack of a better term, we'll need this at the very end of the game. This changes with each playthrough, so you can't just rely on our code at the end if you tried to skip those clue levels or just maybe use a password to jump ahead, for what it's worth. That said, I think once you get maybe the first character or two, someone put together online that you can basically, it can only be so many combinations, so you can guess what it's going to be or learn what it's going to be. Deduce, better said, what it's going to be based on the first character or characters which you get right there. But anyway, so this is the final level for this first block of worlds, and it's a treasure room, so race on through as usual to clean up and exit to get your health topped off. If you're playing solo, you probably have 400 points / right on time right there, right on cue. 400 points / treasures by now, enough to hit that next HP level. Fun fact, but we are now tied with the warrior and Valkyrie for having the second most health. Starting with the next checkpoint of 800 treasures, we'll have, as the elf, the most HP of any character at this point in the game. Not too shabby for a reject from the Keebler factory. Got fired on our first day, look at us now. But level 20, we're beginning World 2 now, entering the Dark Forest here in Gauntlet. This is a very straightforward level, feels like a reset of the difficulty here a little bit. Kind of Pac-Man style after a few levels. We have our first transporters in the game here in level 20, in the bottom right, which takes us to a dedicated treasure area. There's another extra shot power potion, which we can reveal by pressing the third flashing tile we come across. Very satisfying grabbing all those treasures there. We want to go up and around this one, as these are just going to unleash some generators there. There's a death hiding in the bottom left chest, so skip that. And there's a hidden cut through beneath the enemy generator in the middle left of the stage, so you don't have to waste a key. Which is right there. Nice to be able to take down demons with a single shot too now, by the way. As the elf at this point in the game at least, assuming you've picked up both of the extra shot power potions we've come across at this point. You can see we have the new map for the first time here. So we have a choice to make here on level 21, although it's not really a difficult one. The top right exit leads to level 22, which has our first extra fight power potion, which, considering ours is at 1 right now, would probably be nice to have. To get there, simply go through the warp on the right side and head up. Otherwise, if you want to go to level 23, it's actually more of a chore, as you need to hit a flashing tile on the bottom right, then head up there where a death is hanging out, and shoot through the bottom left wall and continue on. There's a food and a bomb potion down there by the exit, but otherwise that's about it. We can't hit both levels 22 and 23 for what it's worth, as both of these rooms lead to level 24. So here on level 22, if you're a little low on health at this point, don't worry, we've got a treasure room coming up next. There's plenty of keys here if you're careful not to waste them on the locked wall next to the keys themselves. If you have close to 10 at this point, you might want to come back like I will after we unlock the door to the exit. We want to go right and grab an extra key first from the start, then head down to unlock another door, working our way to the bottom left and then to the right. Hit all the flashing tiles and warp across, hitting another one to allow access to our elf's sorely needed extra fight power potion, and unlock the door carefully without zooming into the exit, as it's easy to do with the elf. And now just backtrack to grab any remaining keys from the initial area, plus a couple more treasures against that left wall. We have a new treasure layout here. Unlike the treasure rooms of the first world, these loop. So no matter where the exit is, the main area you always want to hit is the top half of the lower third, as there's 18 treasures all lined up, plus a wall beneath it which can be shot out to get a few extra treasures, and then there's kind of a cross-shaped wall to the southeast which you can shoot out as well. So no keys to grab in this one, but there's a lot of dead ends, so make sure you know how to get to the exit. By around 10 seconds you might want to start heading toward it, unless it's close by as the elf. And probably leaves yourself maybe 15 seconds as the Valkyrie or the wizard. If you're the warrior, you should probably just ignore the treasure and just spend the entire 30 seconds trying to get to that exit if you need the health. But Level 25 is very straightforward. Push through the new obstacles that are the movable walls to clear out the baddies to actually move the walls. Note that they'll shift around slowly on their own over time as well. Those walls are blocks. Hit the warp and go southwest and hit all the flashing tiles to unlock the bottommost path, which you follow around to the right, and then up to the top right exit, which takes us to level 26, which is our next clue level. The bottom left exit is for level 27, which we'll be going to anyway after we finish the clue level, but make sure you have a key to get the clue in the next level, by the way, as it's hidden in a locked chest. There's food in every chest on this level for what it's worth if you need it. We also have our first appearance of the Lobber enemy, Blaze.
Despite being red, these guys remind me of California raisins for some reason. Maybe it's the gloves, but these guys are called Lobbers. As their name suggests, they throw projectiles, making them the first enemies who can attack you through, by which I mean over a wall, whether it's got diagonal cracks or not. They're not too bad on their own, more of a nuisance than anything.
Thank you, Blaze. There's a lot of items hidden behind the single kind of one-off blocks that you see just in the middle of open areas for what it's worth, most notably including an extra armor potion just north of the 4 movable walls. Southwest of that is a bag of jewel, which is worth 5 treasures, as Blaze mentioned. You can also go wild on bomb potions if you've got an extra key to easily clear out any and all dangers on this level with your bomb potions and still walk out with the max number of 10. As I mentioned before, this is a clue level, and the clue is in a treasure chest located right by the exit, so you got plenty of time to comb over this level in full. Be nice and thorough. Very important to mention that you hold down and left when you go into the warp to ensure that you get deposited in that little treasure area, because if you're not careful, if you don't hold down and left as you go into that warp, then it'll drop you to the right of the other warp, the top warp, and just send you right into the exit, and you will miss the clue. So hold down and left there, and there's the clue in that chest. But it's a nice reminder that you can control the direction which the warps send you in this game just by kind of holding down the direction that you want to go. But C3 are our first two. C3PO, C3PO R2D2. We got a Star Wars fan in the house. Maybe on the development team. Fluff actually has a fact which connects this game to Star Wars in a way, so that'll be upcoming. But we just encountered our first sorcerers of the game on that last level. Blaze?
The sorcerers will warp off and on the screen, making them slightly annoying to try to land a shot on, but just rush them and melee them to death when they appear. Unlike the super variety, the regular sorcerer just rubs up against you, which still does roughly 20 damage per hit, minus whatever level of armor protection yours is at.
Thank you, Blaze. Level 27, there's a bit of treasure from the start by going different paths, but the lower right is the proper exit. And at the end of that last stage, when we grabbed all of those invisibility potions, I think there were 4 of them, as Blaze mentioned, those stacks, we have 40 seconds of this effect right now. There's, I think, the game's, or at least our game's, first temporary invulnerability item there, up and to the left if you want to grab that. There's also 3 health refills along the way to the door. Exit door. I call it a door, it just kind of sucks us in, but the latter 2 are right next to the exits, actually, so I carefully grab those before heading into any of the exits. They all lead to the same area in level 28. But you can see what I mean by carefully. Just gotta toe tap that right there. Difficult to do as the elf, admittedly, but level 28, this one is especially simple if you know where to go. From the start, take the top right exit and go around. There was a 10 super shots in that first chest which we come across. That can make navigating this area a little bit easier if you want to grab that. It's not necessary, especially with another treasure room coming up. Just thinking about our health at this point. Go around until you come upon and hit a flashing tile, then continue on and around until you reach the next outer wall, which has a weak spot in the middle, as you can see. Shoot through here and go a bit and use a bomb potion to clear out the acid puddles so you can reach the flashing tile we unlocked with the first flashing tile. There's a replacement potion bomb just to the right if you go around and grab that. With that second flashing tile triggered, just make your way back around. Once you get down to the bottom, you'll find that that second flashing tile we hit opened up the back door to the exit. And here's our next treasure room. Same strategy. Go left from the start to get the 18 treasure chests. Destroy the floor to get 6 more. Then go southeast to take out the cross wall to get, I think, another 9. And then just locate that exit. Grabbing whatever treasure you find along the way. Health is generally the more important priority. So level 30 acts as a hub with 4 different exits in each corner which lead to 3 different levels. Most of these are connected in some way or another, and we can even loop these stages if you take the right exits, making this a nice chance to top off your health, get some extra bombs, keys, even grab unlimited extra magic potion upgrades. I'm going to take the top left exit first, grabbing the key at the start, as both top exits lead to level 32. But here in 32, grab that free key at the top at the start. There's a bit of treasure to grab and 4 health at the bottom, but there's also a couple deaths which will eat into your health that you just picked up. If you want health, it's a lot easier to just immediately go to the bottom left, get a single health refill, and then take the exit. I'm just going to wait that out. Don't want to waste a bomb since there's so much health coming up. Yeah, get a single health refill there, and then take the exit to level 33, where we're going now, where there's 4 health right here at the start. So after we grab these, we can warp to the left or right and immediately exit back to level 32, which I'm going to show you right now just to loop the 2 levels. In 32 and 33, we can grab just free keys in this way, always at the start of this level, but here's the path where you just go down to the bottom left and instantly get back to 33 to grab those 4 health once again. There's also 12 treasures which appear in a group on this stage if you warp over to them. All this together makes these 2 levels a great 1-2 punch for catching your breath, especially in 2-player mode, making sure everyone has max keys and health before continuing on. When you're ready to move on, you need to find the actual exit, which will take us to level 34, which in turn will take us back to level 30, but you'll likely find the exit to level 34 on this stage in one of the exits off of the northmost 4 warp areas. You just have to try them all until you find the one which takes us to level 34. All the rest just won't take you anywhere, but level 34 has 2 exits. The bottom and easier to access one takes us back to level 30, which we're going to do now. We'll actually be back here in a moment, but for now just head back down to the right to easily find that level 30 exit. So back in level 30, I covered the top 2 exits. This time we're going to take the bottom left, which goes to level 31, as this ultimately leads to level 35, confused yet, where we can get ourselves an extra magic potion upgrade to make our bomb potions a little stronger. We're not quite done with level 30, but first things first, here in level 31, I recommend staying at the top route and grabbing the invulnerability potion for getting through the rest of this stage much more easily. Once you have that, then just keep hitting the flashing tiles and working your way back to access the newly opened area. There's a flashing tile hidden in a treasure chest which we need to unlock to access the exit to level 35, but with all the keys you should now have, that shouldn't be an issue at all. Let's go ahead and burn a bomb right there to cut through the path. But don't have to worry about that while we have our invulnerability item rocking for us. Couple more bombs back here, and there's that tile to unlock the exit to 35. Yeah, ultimately we're going to end up back on level 30 again, that hub, to finally go back to level 34 to actually move on with the game. But right quick, back on level 35, they force a reflective shot pickup on you here to remind yourself that this is mostly a garbage item. We need to hit a flashing tile behind that pickup in a dense kind of checkered wall area we got right here. Then work back and warp to the other side of a wall, then warp down, holding down to pop out on the bottom side of the lower warp. At that point we can work to the right and ultimately unlock an extra magic potion upgrade. Just in that chest right down there, we just can't get to it as is at the moment. Stupid reflective shots. Whose idea? So while we work to pick up that upgrade and ultimately make our way back to level 34 for for the actual exit to continue on with this game and, maybe stopping off for supplies along the way. Just follow along. And let's bring in Fluff for our first Fluff fact about Gauntlet. Fluff?
Gauntlet is a 1988 Tengen-published NES port of the 1985 hack-and-slash arcade classic, developed and published by Atari, and chiefly designed by Ed Logg, the co-creator of arcade shoot-'em-up classics like Asteroids and Centipede. Gauntlet was one of the first dungeon-crawling games in general, not to mention one of the first successful video games to be influenced by and based in the concepts and themes of the 1974 enduring tabletop RPG Dungeons & Dragons. The arcade version of Gauntlet is famous for its narrator's voice, who delivered timely lines like, "Your life force is running out," and even character-specific lines like, "Elf shot the food," or "Valkyrie needs food badly." These lines were recorded by Ernie Fosilius, an American filmmaker best known for his parodies like 1978's Hardware Wars, a satirical spoof of the previous year's Star Wars. Gauntlet is credited as being one of the most popular arcade titles of all time, and being the game which seriously popularized dungeon crawlers. A direct sequel followed in 1986 in Gauntlet 2, which expanded on the gameplay of its predecessor and was just as acclaimed both critically and commercially. The series has seen a number of additional releases in the decade since 1985, including but not limited to the obligatory Ultimate, which wasn't quite Ultimate title in 1991's Gauntlet 3, The Final Quest, 1993's Gauntlet 4, all the way to 2014's PC and PS4 reboot title, which was simply named Gauntlet. The rights to Gauntlet have changed hands from Atari a couple times since then, with Midway acquiring it when they absorbed Atari in the late 90s, and most recently with Warner Brothers taking over the rights and putting out the aforementioned 2014 title. It's unlikely we've seen the final title in this series, but for now, fans of the series have a lot of games to choose from. What's your favorite, class?
I was always partial to Dark Legacy myself. Thank you very much, Fluff. So you can see we backtracked a little bit and stopped off at the level 32 into 33 run just to make sure our health was in good condition now. We're just trying to find ourselves the exit. In this case, back to level 34 where we'll actually exit out the proper way this time. You'll find in situations like this, the warp tiles don't always cooperate, don't always put you exactly where you want to go. I find in the do or die situations, the directions I hold, like when we were trying to get that clue just now, that always works for me, but yeah, when you got a 4 spot like this, just more often than not I bounce around like an idiot. Just trying to find the exit in this one, it's very frustrating. Might as well go back and try to get that health now that we missed. That last one there. Love those sound effects by the... Ah! Makes me laugh. Wish we had the narration from the arcade version, but can only do so much with the digitized speech on the NES. There's the actual exit, so we're finally back on level 34. This time, instead of going right, we're going to go to the left. And we're going to find the exit to level 36 this time, which is another treasure level. Gotta hit that flashing tile first, and again, treasure level, so we'll let this happen. Bombs are more important. I like the timing of that, made it look like we could kill death with our weak little shots. Well, not as weak as they used to be. What are we on now? Maybe a 4? So we're in pretty good shape. Popping out the warp this time. Now following the path to the left. As it just keeps repeating here. And level 36, just another treasure level with the same setup. So clean up, and if you're playing single player, you should be close to 800 points at this point. And they got the exit down here this time. Might as well just stick to this basic area and clear out the cross and lower area there. It's not a bad sweep. And we're knocking on the door, though, for that penultimate health upgrade. So So we race back. They're pretty kind. You can see it's still the time running out, showing zeros on the clock there, but as long as you're hitting that exit before it gets down to that 0. And they'll give it to you, but level 37, if you're good on keys, which you should be at this point, save the 3 at the start, as we'll be using 3 on this level. 1 to open up just about the stupidest locked door I've ever seen there on the right. Another small door in the bottom left, and then finally a chest in the top middle center area, which has an extra speed upgrade. It's exactly what the elf needs right now, extra speed. Not even joking. You need to hit all of the flashing tiles, though, on the left to open the way for both the chest and the exit, which is hidden behind the bomb in that center corridor, which opens up. Speaking of that bomb, I like to save that to clear out the sorcerers near the chest. Over here on the right, in this busy area, there's a fair amount of health on the left side, as you can see, so just carefully clear out those ghosts so you don't take out any of the jugs. Clear them all out. Very satisfying. Much safer level now. If you're playing as the elf, and there's the exit. Let's go back up and grab these keys. Yeah, if you're playing as the elf, then, and you're grabbing the speed upgrade for yourself, note the before and after here. Welcome to level 6 speed and all its ridiculousness. Completely necessary. You have to be extra careful now with just some toe tapping here and there when it comes to tight corridors, not wanting to hit an exit prematurely or pick up the wrong item, this and that, just different things. You gotta be careful, but still, I'll gladly take the speed as an improvement here in Gauntlet. No matter how fast I can go, just to make it happen. But lots of locked doors here on level 38, but also a fair amount of keys available to us. There's a ton of locked chests on this level, which outside of a couple bombs aren't worth your time. In the center chamber, just slightly above the middle of the screen, there's a flashing tile. The chest to the left of that contains an invulnerability potion, so that might be worth your time, but there's also 2 exits here in the top right and top middle. The top middle exit leads to level 39, which the top right exit skips, so in the interest of grabbing another extra speed potion on level 39, I recommend taking that top middle exit, actually. Just making sure we're topped off on keys in this situation. I don't think that sorcerer knew what hit him, but level 39, there's treasure to be had if you head up at the start. You can get 16 treasures from using a key, but if you want to grab the extra speed potion en route to the exit, head right and down at the start, going through the stun tiles and telefragging death itself, like something out of Doom, as you'll see here in a second. Watch this. Fantastic. Now we just gotta deal with that annoying death sound for the rest of the stage, but grab the jug and a freely available extra speed upgrade. Our second in just a few levels. You'll appreciate it, especially for getting to the exit faster, to stop that incessant death sound. But yeah, just go up and around to the exit to move on to level 40. This one's just a slog to the exit. Don't worry about your health too much unless you're extremely low, in which case you may need to use a bomb or 2 to get through the Sorcerer section in the middle. There's a bomb in the top right chest for what it's worth, but there's a poison in the chest at the start. You can grab the super shot down here at the bottom, the 10 super shots, and then shoot through that chest to get that poison out of the way, and then gain access to the jug, which is right behind it there, and save yourself a key as well. Opening up a garbage item. Just embarrassed death there, and then yeah, just otherwise, it's a linear slog to the bottom right exit, to a treasure room, and the final level here in World 2, actually. Just wanted to make sure I grabbed that key, since I know we're going to be okay on health as we exit out of here. One last treasure room with this design. one last level in general here in World 2, and you'll seriously appreciate the speed that we're rocking at this point for the elf, cleaning up, possibly hitting 800 points to bring up our max health to 1420. Make sure you reach the exit in time to enter World 3 with your hopefully new max of health here. There it is, 1420. Tasty. About that exit, right down here. The final health upgrade is 1600, so we need to double our treasure total by the end of the game, which might be a little rough, honestly. Might have to do a little backtracking, which we'll talk about, but not the end of the world if we don't hit that final max of 1600. Here in 42, we're entering the Lost Caverns of Gauntlet. At the start, head north as you only can, and carefully take out the column pieces for a jug, and also a key. Now, if you follow the path to the left, you'll exit to level 45, but that route will skip a clue room, so we want to follow the right path instead, which also features an extra fight power potion and a locked chest. So grab that and make our zipping through of enemies a bit more effective before taking the exit to level 43. We've also got some super sorcerers to contend with. Blaze?
I always kind of assumed sorcerers were capable of firing off spells, but it wasn't until I played Gauntlet that I learned that this ability is reserved for the super sorcerers, who behave just like the regular sorcerers in that they warp in and out but can now fire projectiles at you. Similar to most enemies outside of ghosts, you're better off just plowing through super sorcerers when you see them, rather than standing still and attempting to fire your projectiles. A decent speed paired with a decent hand-to-hand fighting level is the key to avoiding and or taking down these pesky enemies.
Thank you, Blaze. I admit I had it wrong myself all these years, but anyway, level 43, this level's a cluster, so let's start fast. Warp out at the bottom and don't hold any directions. This will generally pop you out on the southeast side of that chamber. Now quickly go up and left and then down. You'll see a chamber with a potion of invulnerability. Shoot out the bottom right block to enter that area. Get the potion, then take the warp up above it, holding up. Now just plow straight through to this enclosed exit, as this is the one we want to go to level 46 rather than 44, which all the others will take you to. But here in 46, time for another clue room. Follow the path around to get to the back of the giant arrow. We can specifically shoot out the back center tile, mining the poison above and below that spot to cut through and unlock the chest with the clue. Hit the flashing tile to remove the barrier to the exit and work your way back out and around the arrow right here to the exit. So much for C3PO. C3H. Alright. Very cocky, that Morak. But yeah, write these down in your game. Make note of them to recall for later. But let's move on now to level 47. At the start here, go to the left and spend a key and touch either flashing tile to open the way to the right. Now jump on the warp tiles right of the start and keep holding right until it drops you in the narrow corridor on the right. Go up and grab a jug. Since I have 10 bombs, I'm going to use one against the left wall to clear out the generator so I can grab the keys in a second. Hit the flashing tile on the far right, then grab that bomb southwest of there and then run back to the start and go left and down to hit the final flashing tile. This unlocks the middle corridor up so we can grab those 2 keys. Then head back to the left and exit out, noting that there's another jug on the top of the left side if you do want to grab it for what it's worth. You can see it from there right there. Just splitting those acid puddles right there with our speed. So level 48, this one's very simple and straightforward. There's some health if you go left and down at the first fork. There's also a bomb in the chest here as well as another one in a chest in the bottom left. Stupid acid puddles just gumming up the works here. We got full bombs, so we're not going to use one, although I'm tempted right now. But continue on around the linear path otherwise, embarrassing the grunts and demons along the way. See him there, just clubbing that wall, hoping for a chance at you. By the way, I feel like we've shown this many times, but yes, you can shoot through those little corner areas Announcer guy mentioned this earlier. The warrior is the only character who can't do it, but everybody else can use that to their advantage to shoot through those little cracks. But walk these very tight corridors with these exits. They all lead to the next level, but we want to make sure we grab that extra shot power there before we hit one of the exits. Also that jug down there, and an army of slowly moving blocks that are blocking that bomb chest. But anyway, level 49, a new world, a new treasure room design. Thankfully the exit is relatively easy to spot. But with the slower characters, it can take some time navigating through each layer of the circle to get to it. Especially if it's on the outermost layer, you might just want to focus on getting to the exit, especially with a slower character, and especially if this is your first time on this design. We just made it and on the level 50, halfway home. Although, a bit more than that actually, because there's going to be some levels we're going to be skipping by design as a necessity in the back half. But level 50, this one is straightforward unless you want an extra magic potion upgrade, which of course you do. So just work your way up, taking the first warp. When you hit it, hold up and right to be deposited up and right on the other side of the wall. Be quick because those pesky sorcerers can hit you while you're still warping, as silly as that is. But grab the jug and hit the next warp at the top, holding up and right again. And then repeat on the warp tile above you, holding up and right. And then this should put you in the room just down and to the right of the exit. And then take the warp just below and right of the exit, holding up and to the right again. And this time, you'll find yourself out there on the left side so that you can actually go around hitting that flashing tile to grab yourself the extra magic potion. It's actually behind that top right eye there to find it. Grab those super shots while you're there, but yeah, there's a smiley face on the left side and there's a frowny face on the right, by the way. If you shoot the mouth on the frowny face, that releases 3 deaths, which I thought was a nice touch. But level 51, at first glance, you might think, wow, they're really generous with the bombs in this level, but no, they're all poison potions, so avoid them all. There's 2 exits here. The one on the right path leads to level 53, which ultimately leads to another clue room. Remember Blaze told us we can use the super shots to blast through locked doors? Well, let's save a key and do that. And quickly run around to the top of the room. The flashing tiles just let out enemies, so don't mess with that. Chest at the bottom just contains more treasure. On the left they have bombs, and on the right they have food. The only one we want to open for sure is the one immediately to the right of the exit, which contains an extra fight power potion, which is perfect for our now swole elf. Chest to the left of the exit contains death, so maybe don't open that one. But on the level 54, there's 5 keys for 5 locked doors in this stage. But we also need one for the clue, which is locked in a chest in the top left. If you've got extra super shots left over, then you just stock those keys and blast through the doors. There's also a couple bombs in the northwest room with the clue next to 2 poison potions, mind you, and 4 foods in the top right. Just make sure you grab it all before you exit in the bottom right area. It's a nice room right there. Keys, bombs, food. Fixing you right up. Yeah, mind the poison right there. You can blast him to get him out of the way. Get him out of the way for the next guy. Carefully stepping through here and grabbing our keys. We're in pretty good shape in terms of keys and bomb potions at this stage in the game. And moving on, hope you're writing these down, class, or your own respective clue letters and or numbers. Another treasure level, same deal as before. You can go with the phone, or you can go old school style, just pen and paper. However you do it, just make sure you do it. Write it down. Hate it when you got the exit right here and there's just, you gotta burn 7 seconds on the clock like that. Level 56, this one's just about slowly working your way down to hit the final flashing tile to open the exit area. hitting a couple other flashing tiles and breaking walls along the way. There's literally no way to get to the treasures walled off near the top right there. Believe me, I've tried. There is a temporary invulnerability in the chest near the bottom of the screen. I recommend skipping it simply because the key is more valuable, and by following this gauntlet walkthrough, I'm going to assume you've got at least a couple few keys. So we're going to skip a few levels here for a much more efficient route to the end of this world and another treasure room to top off our health sooner than later. All this to say, you don't need the invulnerability. That's what I'm trying to say. But it's your prerogative. Level 57 is very quick. Note the free key to the right when you start in this next chamber. There's a couple exits. We're going to take the one to level 58, which will shortcut us to near the aforementioned final level and treasure room of this world. Just head down from the start, cut right and down right, following the path to the exit. There's food available to the left, but you've got to cut through a bunch of demons to get to it for what it's worth. And what it's worth is not worth it, so let's move on. Level 58, there's 4 exits. The top 2 exits go back to level 57, so you can stock up on keys if you need them with that freebie key before coming back here. But the next level we hit will give us about 8 keys, assuming you grab the 10 super shot item in the top left. So we don't have to worry about that stage's locked doors. At the start, shoot down to clear out the weak walls. Just be careful not to shoot out the bottommost wall, as there's a death hiding there. Cut down to the left to unlock the chest to hit a flashing tile and open the area above you. There's 2 bomb potions we can grab. So don't be afraid to go ahead and use one to clear out the acid puddles. Jump in the warp to get sent to the other side of the wall and hit the flashing tile to open the way to the bottom. Then you want to work your way back out and go to the top left to grab a key and the aforementioned super shots. Try not to fire any of them on the way out of this level. Go back down and grab both bomb potions and go around the right path at the exit to level 61. The left one leads to level 62, which you can do, but I recommend again stopping off on this stage for keys here. Especially since we got that super shot. So we're pretty good on keys, but yeah, no excuses at this point for keys, class, because we are coming this way. But yeah, if you took my advice, you got that super shot, you don't have to waste any keys. You have enough shots to escape the initial area and destroy every locked door to circle the entire outer perimeter on this level. Don't worry too much about taking damage here, as yeah, we're heading straight to a treasure level after this. The extra magic potion is in the top central chamber's chest. Make sure you unlock it with a key and don't accidentally shoot that chest with your super shot, by the way. Otherwise, it's just about hitting all the flashing tiles around the perimeter to unlock any of the exits, which will lead you to level 62, the final treasure room of this world and this variety. So after the treasure level, we'll move on to the new world, and the first couple levels feature lazy game design. Invisible walls. I didn't pronounce that correctly, but it's pretty straightforward. Just follow along with the track which we take. And while we do this, let's bring in Fluff for another Fluff fact about Gauntlet.
I mentioned earlier how Gauntlet was heavily influenced by the concepts and themes of the tabletop RPG Dungeons & Dragons. Designer Ed Logg's son was a fan of the tabletop game, so Ed wanted to create a video experience which represented that. The game was even initially intended to be titled Dungeons, but Atari opted for Gauntlet after deciding they didn't want to risk legal action from the rights holders of Dungeons & Dragons. Speaking of legal action, visually the game bears a striking resemblance to 1983's Atari 8-bit console titled Dandy, a name which is itself a play on the abbreviation for Dungeons & Dragons, or D&D. In fact, Gauntlet was so closely and obviously influenced by Dandy in taking its dungeon-crawling gameplay and even 4-player mechanics that Dandy's main designer, John Howard Pavlovich, threatened a lawsuit against Atari. He definitely had a decent case just by looking at the two side by side, but the conflict was settled before the suit was ever filed. Allegedly, Pavlovich was pacified by being gifted a Gauntlet machine. Well, that's a thank you in the credits. Another game Gauntlet allegedly copied was Time Bandit, though one of its designers and Harry Laffner acknowledged that all these games were simply channeling the maze shoot-'em-up genre, which was established by games like Tutankhamun, a 1982 arcade title from Konami.
Thank you, Fluff. Anyone play that? Anyone play, well, any of those games mentioned actually outside of Gauntlet? Some of the inspirations there, Dandy, Time Bandit, anyone? But here on level 64, more invisible walls. Don't worry, the entirety of World 4 is not like this. The path for 64 isn't quite as straightforward as the last level. Rather than trying to describe the path, yeah, just follow along, because honestly, I don't even think I know how to describe it, but maybe I have a sixth sense for this, but it feels relatively linear. Having a fast character makes these kinds of levels a lot more palatable, I have to say. No items to look out for, though, aside from a couple foods and several treasures, but level 65, there's 2 exits on this one, or rather there's a few exits, but the bottom ones take us to the next level where we want to go for our next clue level. From the start, just go down and hug that left wall to find the opening to the exit we want at a kind of invisible intersection, but yeah, you can grab a couple foods just above the exit once you reach it, if you're not too amped up about actually finding and reaching the exit there. Level 66, use a key to access the clue and a bunch of loot in the form of an extra fight power potion there on the right and a super shot. Don't hesitate to use a bomb, by the way, to clear out all that nonsense. There's 3 of them waiting for you. There's 2 exits. We want the one which we get to by shooting out the invisible breakable walls in the lower left gap right there and then following the path up and to the right, as this exit leads to a treasure room and the bottom of the 2 skips it. So write down your next clue and a new treasure room design where the exit is randomized each time. This is where they start to get really nasty. Don't waste time with the treasure unless you're at or near full health. Even if you are, I still like the mad dash that is trying to find the exit in 30 seconds. You know it's hard when the elf struggles to find the exit in time. That's your giveaway. Yeah, I don't think we're going to find it, especially when we hit a stun tile like that. That's alright, we're within 100 health of our max right now. But on to level 68, very simple level compared to most of them in this game. The exit is inside a locked chest at the end of the bottom right path. Note that there's a chest before that chest which has a death inside of it, so blast it if you've still got any super shots. There's also a couple keys in the top left, so double back to grab those after you've unlocked the exit chest. Otherwise, just a bit of treasure waiting for you there. Outside of it, and a bomb in the bottom left chest for what it's worth. Top left chest just has monsters, so you can skip that one. Gotta love those super shots. Again, you can pause the game if you get stunned. If you're getting surrounded by enemies, which again, late in the game can kill you very quick, especially if you get surrounded. Cannot stress that enough. Just making a desperate attempt, but I think it might be a fool's errand trying to hit that 1600, but we'll see. Level 69, this one is frustrating if you don't know how to warp where you want to warp, how to get the pad to warp you where you want to go. At the start, work your way southwest and back up until the path dead ends into a chest, which has a temporary invulnerability. This is very useful for clearing out the generators along the way and near the warp tiles, especially if you just keep looping on those tiles. Follow the path back to the start, clearing out the generators, enemies, and treasures until you hit the only warp you can access at the start. Hold down and right to get sent to the rightmost warp tile. If it doesn't work, return to the warp until it does, but hit the flashing tile to unlock the previously blocked off warp tile, and hold up as you walk into it, then immediately switch to holding up and right. So walk into it with up and then up and right. There's a very narrow window in which the directions you're holding switch from dictating the warp tile you'll end up near to dictating which side of the warp you'll land on, but by going up and then upright, you should be spat out to the right of that top center warp tile and hit the flashing tile, grab the food and treasure along the way. Follow the linear path down to the exit. But on the level 70, this is a clue room, and the clue is hidden in the bottom right chamber, which you can find by shooting in the top right space of that chamber. There's 2 exits, one at the top and one at the bottom, and both are blocked by a hidden wall, which we need to hit a corresponding flashing tile to remove. The actual exit which works changes each time, so the top barrier removal's flashing tile is through the left wall in a chest, but be careful, there's a pair of deaths hanging out in there, so save this one for last. Just if the bottom exit doesn't work, to save yourself from having to use a bomb to clear them out. The bottom barrier removal's flashing tile is hidden in the northeast chamber by shooting in the bottom right, which will reveal that flashing tile. Right there. There's a health in each of the non-exit chambers, but yeah, be careful not to shoot them as you're tunneling through. There's also a key in the top left chamber for what it's worth, but you need to hit the flashing tile in the bottom left to be able to get to it. So it's not the bottom one, so in that case, we do need to go into the death room here. Just use our bomb. Hit that flashing tile, and now by process of elimination, we know this is the actual exit. Just trying to conserve some health here from those demons, but there's our eye. Again, unique to our game. Moving on though, as you can see from the map, to another wacky treasure room. Wacky warp treasure room. Hopefully you're okay on health with everything they gave us in that last level, because as we demonstrated in the last one, finding that exit is anything but guaranteed on this treasure room. Not happening again. We're 0 for 2 here. There's 2 exits on level 72. The easier to reach in the bottom left takes us through levels 73 and 74, which is another silly invisible wall level and a level with about 8 foods respectively, but no upgrades, so I'm going to recommend we skip that and instead take the slightly higher exit, which we can access by going right, carefully navigating through the locked door corridor, then unlocking the small lower door and hitting the flashing tile to unlock the exit to 75. This is another room with 2 exits. You can take the top right exit if you want to go through a couple rooms with a few foods each, but there's no upgrades. I'm going to take the top left exit, which takes us to the final level in this world in another treasure room. So you'll have another shot at topping off your health there, but yeah, go all the way to the left at the start and cut through the bottom left wall and tunnel up to the left to get some super shots, and above that, a temporary repulsion amulet, which is nice for pushing death farther to the right. Give you access to the middle chamber. Give you an extra speed potion, but you saw the rest of how to get out of there. Come on. Can't go 0-4 here in this penultimate world here. There we go. Alright. Didn't make out on the treasure, but didn't really need the health either, but we'll take it. Final time's a charm, but here we are in the final world. Give yourself a pat on the back for making it this far, class. Hopefully you and your +1 if you're playing co-op. That can be a taller task sometimes depending on character choice, the player themselves, and a little luck, obviously. Not surprisingly, the game takes a large leap in difficulty in this final stretch. There's stun pads where if you touch them, I mentioned this, references, you'll immediately be surrounded and killed, and that's just in the first few levels here, so be ready to pause and unpause, and yeah, just as a reminder. Alright, so level 79, it's like Black Friday at the start of this one. There's a couple exits in this one. Grab the key at the start, then follow the linear path until you come to a locked door. If you use a key on the center square, it takes out the whole thing. If you use one on just one of the outer pieces, it just takes out part of it, so just be careful. It's preferable using your super shots if you've got any left over, as we'll need 3 keys for the clue room, which is coming up. So this exit actually takes us to level 82, which skips the clue room, but we can get back to the clue room with a very short cut through here. Just hang to the left wall, mine the death, and just cut through here to go to level 81, the clue room. We'll be back on 82 in a second, but so be careful if you still have any super shots here, as we don't want to destroy the bottom left chest, which houses the clue. So just make sure you unlock that. Be very careful with the grunts at this stage in the game, obviously, because they're all kinds of coked up. This might be the first time I recommend that you use a bomb without having one waiting to replenish it, but yeah, just take out those few dangerous grunt generators to make this level a breeze. As mentioned, the bottom left chest has the clue, and for the exit back to level 82 that we want, we need to open the 2 chests on the right side as well to hit those flashing tiles. And then that takes us back out, but write down your clue there. Back in level 82, so to go forward we need to go back to level 79, which is the only other exit besides 81 here. So to do this, work your way through that dangerous generator section in the lower left, maybe using a bomb considering there's one waiting once you get through there. Unlock the door and grab the key in that area, clearing out the ghosts and generators. Now carefully go down and trigger that top stun tile. If you want some loot in the form of a super shot and 4 health in the lower chamber, carefully navigate around the flashing tile, noting there's a bunch of grunts waiting down there as well, so weigh whether or not that 400 health is worth it given how fast enemies can drain you. We're gonna go for it, but it's not too bad if you're smart about how you approach it. When you're ready, run straight north after you grab this loot, hitting the flashing tile at speed, which will flood that area with grunts, but yeah, we're heading back north and left to the warp tile, going down until we're in the isolated chamber. Approach that warp right to left and hold left to end up in the ghost room, holding down A as you arrive out of the warp to save yourself the damage. Clear that out, and now by virtue of the flashing tile we hit, we can chip away at the top left wall to reach the exit back to level 79. My goodness. Alright, 79 revisited. This time we're finally going to take the other exit on this one, so it's the same track, just work through the dangerous linear path to get to the intersection locked door, opening it via the key or super shot to go south where there's another locked door. At the bottom there's a couple keys, bomb, some food on opposite sides of a wall. You can shoot out the bit between them. But that's actually the sneaky exit to level 83, as you'll find here in a second. Which is actually a treasure room, though there's no guarantees that you'll be able to find the exit on this one, so we can't relax like we normally can in this situation. Let's see how we can engineer this, maybe. This is breaking my brain a little bit. I think I'm going to try to lure this death into this chamber and then just go all the way around with that patented elf speed. But yeah, the hidden exit is right second from the bottom, right there. Alright, the final treasure room design, and it's tailor-made for speed. Thankfully there's no warps this time. And the layout is pretty straightforward, just a corridor of twisty walls, each miniature section of which leads to a chamber with 11 treasure chests and a couple exits. Once again, the real exit is randomized, so just by virtue of not knowing which is the real one, your chances of getting a lot of treasure or finding the exit are just as random. But again, speed-based characters will have a better time getting out of here before time's up for a very welcome health top up. So level 84 at the start, go down a bit and align it so that you have death within a bombable range in the top right and use a bomb. Also clear out the Sorcerer generator just to the east of the locked door below you. This allows us to catch our breath, grab the loot in that acid puddle section, but then cut through here, and it's a bit more relaxed since we took out that death. Don't have to worry about that, but very careful stepping here, as the only exit that we want is the top left one here, and this is where the speed of the elf can really cost us. I just like to kind of sidle up against each wall and then just kind of cut hugging against the open side right there to get out. But yeah, it can be a little tricky. Level 86 damage is an inevitability on this one. There's too many enemies and they move too fast. If you've got speed and a decent hand-to-hand fight number at this point, by way of upgrades, I've determined it's more efficient in terms of preserving health to just race through. But yeah, pause and unpause on the stun tile if it hits you, and then maybe one or two well-placed bombs like shown here, and just cut your way through that final path of those grunts right there. It's too much. 87, this is another level which will undoubtedly wear you down, but we do have a treasure room after this. At the start, head left and just start cutting through the enemies. It's another instance where I generally recommend relying on hand-to-hand combat rather than ever stopping and taking shots. Eventually you'll get to a long corridor filled with grunts and sorcerers with ghosts on either side. Sounds like the world's worst sandwich, but you obviously need to stop to hold down A and shoot through the lines of those ghosts, especially at the start. But yeah, once you start to work your way through with the grunts right here, you might just want to force your way through, maybe using one bomb like we did right there. Once you get through, though, a couple keys and a very welcome temporary invulnerability, which would have been useful about 60 seconds ago, but what are you going to do? Grab it and hit the exit, and let's see if we can't find ourselves an exit here on the treasure room for a top-off. Very nice, very nice. The figure 8 movement pattern works well in each of those chambers. I say prioritize trying to find the exits, but just kind of by virtue of passing through, you can hit those figure 8s pretty handily to grab that treasure along the way. But level 89, we need 3 keys to open up 2 locked doors and the chest in the bottom left, which leads to the final clue level. With that in mind, clear out the grunt generators to the left of the start and grab the 3 keys there, or if you've got 8 or more keys, leave them until you've unlocked the corresponding number of doors, or even the chest, like in my case, as we're doing here, as we're doing well on keys in my game. But yeah, there's no reason to not still have that lingering temporary invulnerability at this point, so we can safely clear out all the generators and get through this level without taking any damage. At least enemy-related damage here. If you're as fast as the elf is, you can get away with ignoring any generators and just unlocking everything, working your way back to the keys at the start, and still getting to the exit without it wearing off. Yeah, don't waste the keys in other chests, as they just lead to exits which skip the clue room. So there's 6 keys all total, so at the start go left and down, unlock the chest above the key to get a bomb, then grab the key. There's a food in the bottom left chest. Work back up to the starting point and go right to get a key if you need one from that area. There's another bomb in the little chamber in the top left area, not to be confused with the chest in the top leftmost area, which is death. In that right column of chests, going top to bottom, it's food, death, food, food, for what it's worth. And the clue is in this chest at the end of this corridor here. And then I recommend using a bomb right here, as it's just, it's a bit much. Just a lot going on. It's just very satisfying to clear all that out. But shoot out the wall just southwest of the exit, and it will reveal a death, which you can lure around the corner to sneak past, and then finally hit that exit right there. And there's our final piece of the clue. We'll put it all together once we hit level 100 here in just a few moments, but the exit in this one is randomly located in one of the 4 corners of the map. Stay to the right at the start and let the lobbers blast out the left wall. Then you grab the super shot and head out. As you can see, the level is mobbed with enemies, so quickly swing to each corner in the central area until you get eyes on the exit, then immediately make a beeline towards it. There's nothing else for us here. You can use a bomb to help you get around, but the next level is a treasure room for what it's worth, if you fancy your chances at finding the exit there, and value bombs as you should at this point in the game. That was literally the last exit which we checked right there, going clockwise from the top left, but a top off would go a very long way here. This is the final treasure room in the game, so it's your final chance to top off your health. So not looking good for us to hit that 1600 treasure plateau, but the topped off HP is more important at this point in the game anyway. But on to level 93, another room with 2 exits, but only one is active and it's random every time. To unblock the bottom exit, you need to use the top warp to go to the other side and then hit the flashing tile. Likewise, that to unblock the top exit, you need to use the bottom warp to go to the other side. Yeah, we're not going to hit that. And hit the flashing tile. The top chest has a poison potion. The bottom chest has a bomb. You'll need 2 keys as we move forward, but there's 2 on this level, so just keep that in mind. But in the interest of preserving health, I actually recommend using a bomb on the outside of either flashing tile area while as many enemies and generators are on the screen. With that in mind, you might want to do the bottom one first, just in case the top exit turns out to be the real exit. So yeah, this will give you a chance to replace your bomb, as you can see here at the end of this little corridor here in that chest. We can replace our key right here. So let's see if that was indeed the one. If it's not, then I recommend backing out here, actually. Alright, yeah, so rather than going to the right, let's warp back out to the left here, and then use a bomb once we're around the side of where all those baddies are. Don't want to start bringing those demons over. Just try to get as many in range right here. Just clear it out. A little safer. So again, don't mess with the chest over here. It has a poison in it, but hit that tile and now the bottom exit will be available to us. Just gotta contend with some ghosts on the way out here. So the next level, there's 2 easily accessible but nasty exits in level 94. The bottom left leads to level 95, which goes to 96, which is literally a dead end with no exit. It's just game over, essentially. The bottom right leads to level 97, which leads to level 98, which ultimately takes you back to level 32. Yes, level 32. Instead, quickly ignore the lady's G-string thong. Yes, the layout of this level, zoomed out, is a lady wearing a thong, but anyway, work your way up. Not the worst idea to use a bomb in the center right there. And then just work your way across her chest. Maybe hanging back until the acid puddles clear a path, and then shoot out that little tile right there for the exit. Level 99, 1 level away, and they're not going to make this easy on us, class. At the start, immediately go up and right, swing around the corner to lure the death up. You'll already have a couple more deaths on you, so use your speed to find a lane to get to the lower corridor, at which point the most practical solution is to use a bomb, mining the stun tile. With all the enemies safe for the ghosts off the screen, slow down and begin to cut your way through each collection, clearing out the generators. Once you get to the top left, slow down even more to clear this out from a distance before grunts start coming at you from the generator. The grunts are so tough at this point that you're better off slowly taking out the generators and grunts from a distance before you finally make your way to the exit, password in hand. And as we're putting that password in, let's go to Fluff for one last Fluff fact about Gauntlet. Fluff?
Gauntlet was innovative in a lot of ways. In addition to further popularizing the theme of Dungeons & Dragons and dungeon crawling in general in video games, it was also one of the first games to introduce 4-player simultaneous cooperative play in the arcade, though a 2-player cabinet was subsequently released as a cheaper and more space-conscious alternative for arcade operators. Gauntlet was also one of the earliest games to support quarter stacking, meaning while most arcade games at the time would only accept a second quarter after your initial game ended or was ending, you could pump a couple bucks worth of quarters into Gauntlet at the start of your game to be set for the next, well, it's Gauntlet, so probably 8 minutes, let's be honest. When arcade cabinet developers, not to mention arcade operators, noticed the Gauntlet arcade playing community's willingness to front-load their games with multiple quarters, this quickly became the norm for subsequent games.
Yeah, they were only too happy to make it easier on us, weren't they, Fluff? Thank you very much. Excellent work today. So our code in our specific game is C3HFKIDM. Just seems like a random license plate there, but input this. If you put in the wrong password, it'll say game over. But at the start, rush straight down to grab an extra bomb if you like, then go back up and take the left path down, unlock the door, and go left to grab the final jug in the game, maybe using a bomb in that area, as it's pretty busy. Now go up and follow the path, just meleeing all the enemies, who should go down gratifyingly handily as you walk into them. One final locked door, and now let's finally go to our resident boss expert, Gary, for tips on taking down the final and only boss here in Gauntlet. Gary?
It's Scary Gary's Boss Beaters.
The Hydra dragon has 3 heads, but thankfully, only the ones you aggro will attack you back. With that in mind, only fire at one at a time. It's actually easy to avoid the other heads, as you can see. The game is kind about that, unless you run right up to one of the other heads and start blasting away. If you do happen to accidentally hit one of the other heads, it's not a bad idea to use a bomb, as this doesn't do damage, but it puts them all back to sleep. This boss is very stubborn in that once they choose an angle to start shooting at you, they won't deviate from it until they finish their entire chain of shots. Then they'll take a brief pause before they adjust to compensate for your new spot and fire another chain in that direction. As such, you can bait him into firing straight or to the side as you immediately reposition and get a chain of your own shots off. Something to mention is that the more heads this boss has, the worse the frame rate on the screen is, which you can use to your advantage to give yourself more time to get closer and get additional hits in before you need to abandon your position and readjust. Get farther away to give yourself more time with each head you take out. Keep firing. Each head takes roughly 50 hits when it's not actively firing at you, when it seems to be invulnerable, but get those shots in. Hopefully you have enough health to be a little patient. Take him down, and congratulations, you have just about beaten Gauntlet.
Thank you, Gary. After you beat him, do not go in the exit. We need to grab the orb first, so hit that tile. Work your way back around this way. Shoot at that wall. There's a poison there, so you can shoot that out in between. Then run back. Do not go in the exit, as you will get a game over if you do not exit with the orb, but grab the orb. In the exit we go. Victory, you have saved Rendar. And there's your password for taking you back to level 79 again, essentially, but no, never again. But give yourself a huge pat on the back for triumphing over this incredibly challenging title here in Gauntlet class if you've been playing along. A big thanks to all my TAs for helping me out on this one, and a big thanks to you, class, for attending. Order is now restored. Rendar is saved. Morak turned tail. Is a nice, tasteful shot of the elf there, standing ready. They're shooting off some fireworks for us. Yeah, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing in Video Games 101 to enroll in these classes. We do one of these classes every single week in the same spot. Love to have you enrolled. Click that like button too if you don't mind. Really does help us out to make future classes for you, and leave a comment. Have you beaten this one before from the first level or otherwise? Who's your favorite character to play as in this one, or your favorite 2 characters in the case of playing co-op, or as Fluff asked earlier, your favorite game in the Gauntlet series? But that's our time. We'll see you next week in the same spot for next week's class, right here on Video Games 101. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video, and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you. And check the description of this video to see what song is playing right now.